Hi, welcome to Glasgow. My name is Melissa Jiménez Gómez Tagle. I'm a Mexican climate scientist, and today I am here to see what the United Nations Framed Conference of Climate Change is bringing to the countries that are mostly affected by this climate crisis, better known as the Global South countries. We will see if the authorities are just to come here with very nice speeches or if we will get to see real climate action. Could you please introduce yourself? Where are you from?
My name is Mónica Flores Hernandez. I'm from Puerto Rico, and yes, this is my first COP.
Perfect. And how do you feel about coming here for the first time? I mean, do you have any expectations? Do you have any dreams?
I mean, you know, like this is a big scenario to be in, so I think the first word that comes to my mind is privilege. I feel really privileged and lucky to be able to just walk in here and participate in meetings. I just went to my first one and talked for the first time. It was like, oh my God, am I really doing this? Mm-hmm. So it was, I mean, I think I'm still processing. It's overwhelmingly good. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's so big and massive, all those countries together. So I'm just trying to process it all.
Right. Yeah.
But for me, I was never, I mean, you always hope when you're working with climate and communities, you always hope that you can be here and present your case for your people. But to actually be able to do it is a long way. So only being here is I feel lucky.
Hola desde Glasgow. So nice that we are collaborating together. I'm Melissa, planetary health scientist and activist with Extinction Rebellion since 2018 with the San Luis Potosí cell in Mexico. So glad that we're going to be collaborating now. I don't know if you would like to say anything from your side.
What can I tell you about myself? I've been an activist for a couple of years now. I actually got involved with Extinction Rebellion back in April of 2019. You remember there was a big rebellion in London at that time, and I was captivated by all the different sort of actions I was seeing. Coming from Ecuador, I was used to very violent sort of protests, and seeing these types of actions with huge pink boats blew me away. Also, seeing Waterloo Bridge transformed into a garden. These were things that I thought I needed to support and keep doing this sort of protest and not so much the others.
We will be marking the red lines, which are the minimal necessities for a just and livable planet. And with our disobedient bodies, we will be marking those red lines in Paris.
But our voices need to be heard today and every day.
Up here we have the police across the Rue de la, what is this? And then we're on our way to the Eiffel Tower, which is a whole new chapter.
Thousands of people forming a human chain around the Eiffel Tower and around these gardens in a show of solidarity.
And yet, our mood today here in front of the Eiffel Tower earlier at the amazing Red Lines event is not one of despair, but rather our mood is of a clarifying sense of commitment and purpose. We knew that those were not the real leaders. We knew that the leaders were in the streets, that the leaders were in the fields, that this city is filled with climate heroes. We used to say that we were here to protect nature. And now we say that we are nature.
And we will make sure that all the voices are heard, and especially that the science is taken in mind, so we can help all the people in the planet.
My thoughts from that video are that, first of all, I love Naomi Klein. I think Naomi Klein is amazing. Everyone in the global north is more like her. I think it would change everything. But also, I noticed that most of the people in that video were from the global north. Did you notice that as well?
I realized that, and I really hope that at this COP that we can make that switch of the paradigm of wanting to be like the global north, and instead sharing what we all have, and that we can collaborate with each other no matter in which hemisphere of the planet we are. So especially now with the global south, which is more vulnerable to climate change, then we need to collaborate. Collaboration would be the best.
Completely, and I really hope that this year there's going to be a lot more Global South activists there, and that they're going to be front and center. It's the most I can hope for at COP26.
Right. Always climate justice first.
So for some, the COP process is kind of useless and unfruitful. But for others, especially those in the Global South, COP is an amazing opportunity to bring their message to a global audience, which is why the representation at COP is so important. And some people have found that getting to COP is really difficult. Even important people, like one of our people that we've interviewed, which is Willie Misak. Willie Misak is Vanuatu's negotiator for loss and damage. He comes from the Pacific Islands, which are one of the areas, if not the area that is most subject to the very horrible effects of climate change now. So let's hear Willie talk more about this.
In 2019, we went to a community called Nguna Pele in Efate to walk and sit with the community, looking at the crisis when it comes to sea level rise. And it was really touching to me to see that where we walk at the shores of the island, across the graves, and I can see the bones of the people. It was really moving to me to see that those graves are washing away by the sea level rise. If the future of that person, the grandson or the great-great-grandson, wants to go back and see where the tomb of their parents, grandparents, or great-great-grandparents is, they will never find it, because it's under the sea. My name is Willie Misak, and I am from Vanuatu. My view on this COP26 is that we need the concrete action.
My name is Vishal, and I'm from Fiji. It's wonderful to be here. I am part of the Pacific Island Students Fighting Climate Change. I am a campaigner. We are part of a team that's campaigning to take climate change and human rights to the International Court of Justice. The moment which pushed me towards activism that helped me actually decide I wanted to do this was actually the cyclone that we had in Fiji. It was the second strongest cyclone to hit the southern hemisphere. It was Tropical Cyclone Winston. It was a devastating storm that hit most of the islands in our country in Fiji. It devastated homes. Some people lost their lives. It was just heartbreaking to see, and it's even worse when you realize and when you have families that are affected. So you are safe in the city, but people that you know and love out in the outer islands, in the rural areas, that they call you in and tell you of the sad stories of what's happened to their homes.
When I speak with my parents and looking them that after the cyclone, struggling for next 6 months just to find a proper wood to build a house, just to find the proper leaves to build something that can protect them for the next 6 months, with the understanding that they will be hit by another cyclone.
Climate change is having a wide variety of impacts in the Pacific. So you can see that daily. Just now, I have come out in Fiji. We're now starting to prepare for our cyclone season, which is in November, which begins in November. So the 1st of November, we'll have cyclone season coming up, and people are now, they've prepared us. They've told us that there might be 3 cyclones hitting Fiji this cyclone season, and all of them are above category 3. So we're now just preparing for cyclones as the world is preparing for the holiday season. We're along with holiday preparations, we have to make preparations for the cyclone season. Now, other communities, there's loss of land. I think it's just an issue. You're losing your home because their villages or their communities will no longer be livable in the years to come. So that means their land, their food crops, their ability to grow food, water supply, all of these things is lost.
Whenever you plant a plant, other insects needed at that time is a crisis, not only the human being crisis, but also the animals crisis as well.
And it's just a bleak future for the youth, I believe, because if you have your homes being affected by climate change, it becomes a very difficult life to live on in the islands. And I think and it becomes very difficult for young people to imagine a future in the islands. And then at last resort, it could lead to mass migration or even things like this. So you could really lose the Pacific or the young people because of this. So the future is really quite bleak.
So this is where, when I'm looking at this, it become for me something that I think need change, not only at the local level, but at the regional and the global level, which allows me to get into that space of the COP and negotiation and really help the world understand that we are facing a crisis that we are creating by our own ego and our own way of looking at ourselves and our progress, while denying the other side of the world that are contributing on a very less way of emission, but at the forefront of those biggest crises.
Well, this is it. This is what's happening. What up? It's baffling me because I know it, but when you get that transmission from words from the people who are actually suffering and living it, I mean, these guys were just talking to me, and they're talking to all the world leaders about the reality, not the future, but the reality, the present. And it just frustrates me to get to know that. Probably the destiny is already decided by just a couple of people who are not affected by this. And they are greedy and just selfish for their own interests. This is brutal, man. So now, let's go from reactions to actions that are taking place in London by people from the Southern Pacific Islands.
We're here today because the Bank of England has been funding the climate crisis that threatens our islands.
To kind of put it simply, we lie in the eye of the storm. What we're fighting for is a chance at survival.
Loss and damage as of this year, 2021, is taking place in every single country in the world.
We're here for justice. It's the people who have profited the most from the climate crisis that are feeling it the least.
The financial institutions in this particular country are responsible for the exportation of climate destruction to our shores.
Banks provide the money that is creating this destruction.
We need them to defund the climate chaos.
We used to be colonized by this very country, and our ancestors fought to have our culture preserved. We continue their fight.
We are more than just climate victims. We are climate leaders, and we will continue to fight for our island homes.
My calling to the people of Britain would be to believe in your power.
There's a whole entire week of action that's planned from today that goes all the way until November 6th. And I think it's important that people turn up in whatever the way they can.
So first up is what the Extinction Rebellion activists have been doing in Bogota, Colombia. Now, this is probably one of the most dangerous states to be a climate activist in the world, if not the most dangerous state. So let's see what my friends were doing. They were fly posting about their upcoming action on November 5th. I love that video from Bogota. So now let's move all the way to Africa, to Vaal, South Africa, where a group was protesting the continuous use of coal from the Eskom electricity company. So this is 20 years that we've been using coal, and it really shouldn't be happening anymore. Let's see the action.
Hello everyone, my name is Mamuso Tswabi from Gauteng province. I'm a founder of Serapeng Sabasadi agricultural project. I'm a member of Vaal XR Letsema.
The reason I'm doing this is because I'm aware that the world is crying and people, human beings, are the ones who are destroying the earth. And most of the people are not aware that companies like Eskom are the one who's responsible for this climate change.
Eskom, we're not asking Eskom to go away, but we're asking Eskom to opt for renewable energy. So instead of using dirty energy, Eskom must go for renewable. We have enough wind, we have enough sunlight, where he can just harvest those natural resources and make energy which is clean, green and clean. So what we want now is Eskom to go for renewables or go to hell.
So while we are here in Glasgow and the world leaders are right behind here deciding the future of humankind, we were asking some people from the most affected and vulnerable countries to climate change what they feel COP26 should achieve after this. Let's go.
Let them mean what they have said, not just putting things on paper and then go, but they have to really actualize what they have said. That is what I can say.
I just wanted to ask people to listen to Global South voices and people that are in the countries that are being affected.
To consider and include the Global South leaders and make their voices heard, and also to act on the grievances of the Global South leaders during such negotiations. We are tired of empty promises, and it is time for the Global North leaders to make up space for the Global South leaders and to actually act on what they demand during the COP negotiations.
The climate financing, that's a joke, to be honest. What you really want, you don't want your money, we want you to change your lifestyle, live a life that will ultimately help other people in the other part of the world live better too. Yeah.
They really need to be committed. For instance, talk about a net zero carbon economy. If it's a policy in a country, let it be practicalized. They need to be committed to whatever the talks will be.
COP26 needs to make sure that vulnerable voices are being accounted for, are being listened to, are being heeded to, and the negotiators, state governments, corporations have to behold accountability and to make sure that the pledges will be met, especially when it comes to climate finance and prioritizing loss and damage, climate reparations, and reducing climate debt to Global South nations.
For me, COP26 needs to achieve more ambition. And this is not just a tagline. We really mean ambition that is armed with policy plans, with implementation strategies, with states coming on board with strict and confirmed NDCs that have what they say essentially the rule book of the Paris Agreement. It needs to be an armed ambition, I would say. We need armed ambition, not just what we call in the Pacific a talk fest, essentially. It's just a festival of speakers coming on board, yeah.
It needs to find solutions for all the continents, Africa, America, Australia, Asia, everywhere should be catered for in that agenda of the COP26.
COP26 needs to achieve equity when it comes to decision making, when it comes to involving youth, when it comes to involving movements or involving anyone.